Hello, my name is Rich Howard, owner of Architectural Builder Supply. This video is to go over how to change the dogging device on a Kawneer 1686. Fair warning, it's more work than it really ought to be, I think, but let's dive into it right now. It would be nice if it took less work to do this, but the bottom line is let's do it. So this is not a device that's installed on the door, obviously. I don't have one in my shop that's installed on the door. This is a brand new device. And it's going to demonstrate exactly what I'm going to demonstrate using this, what needs to be done. With the 1786, you don't have to remove the chassis from the door, but with a 1686, a concealed vertical rod, you need to. And with the 1786, of which I have a video as well, changing the dogging device, or getting access to it at least, there's more work involved there as well than I would like to have to do. But with the concealed vertical rod, the bottom line is the chassis has to come off the door because there's no way to get the touch bar off the chassis without removing parts. So let's talk about that now. So the bottom line is, this is, when you take this out of the box, this is a self-contained unit. The touch bar and the lift arm is here, which drives the rods, the concealed rods. That's there. You have basically the hinge side or the pivot side of the door, and what we've got to do is we've got to get the touch bar assembly out, because the touch bar assembly is where the dogging device is connected to. And in order to get the device off the door, what you need to do, I guess what I'll do is flip the camera down. On the end of the device here, you're going to have the mounting bracket is what you're going to have. You're going to have the end cap that's going to be over this. You're going to have your filler plate that's going to be in here. So the bottom line is the end cap has to come off. The filler, mounting bracket is going to have to come off. Let's take that off. Now we've got these three pieces removed. At that point, what you're going to need to do is you're going to need to remove the center case assembly, which is over here. This is going to have to come out. Before you get to it, because once this is removed, we're going to be able to pull the touch bar assembly off the device. Before you do that, you have to remove this end cap on the pivot style. You have to remove this end cap on the center case style. So I'm going to pause the video. Well, actually, let's just do it together so that you can see it. The end caps are not the same, and the hinge side end cap is an important one in the sense that it keeps the touch bar in place on the device itself. This is a number 1 screwdriver that I'm using. A number 2 is not going to fit. You don't want to lose those screws. Screws are off. Now the end cap, you'll be able to slide the touch bar a little bit. Well, you really won't at this point, except that when you get this end cap loosened, okay, you're going to need to be able to get that off the door, because this is sliding over this post, keeping the touch bar laterally in place so it can't move. So the end cap's got to come off. At this point, you can you'll be able to slide the touch bar a small amount away from the head case, but you're bumping into parts. And what ultimately is the obstruction is the dogging device itself is going to prevent you from completely sliding it off. So going over to the other side of the device, now we need to remove the end cap from the pivot side. Two screws to remove that end cap, and these end caps are different. Now you've got the lever arm. This is responsible when you hit the touch bar. This is what's pulling the latches, the controller, the concealed vertical rod package in. So when you push this down, the bar down, it's pushing the head case assembly. Now the issue is, it would be nice to be able to, and let's just flip the camera back up. It would be nice to be able to simply take this and completely slide it off the door, but I'm bumping into the inner assembly with that dogging device. If I were to try to slide this... Yeah, good. I'll show you the part that I was looking for. If you were to try to slide this, you're bumping into this part. So that's why the device has to come off the door. I can't slide it off this way because I can't get the dogging device over the parts that are inside of here. And I can't slide this any further this way because I'm being locked in. So at this point, you're going to be able to remove the device. There are two screws here, right here and here. These two bolts, or machine screws, they're holding the head case onto the, well, I have the instructions, I'll show you. It's the center case assembly. Yeah, perfect. Right here. Those two screws that they're referring to, those are going to have to come out. I'm sorry, right here. Right at the tip of my finger. Those will have to come out. At that point, once those come off, you should be able to then, the entire touchpad and chassis assembly is now loose in your hand, and it's going to be just like this, is the bottom line. Once you get that off, on the back side, you'll have access to the two screws that hold the head case assembly, the lever arm assembly, onto the chassis. So I'm going to go about removing those two screws now. And this is the first time I've done this on this device. And the reason I've not gone out of my way to do this in the past is because what I have found with exit devices is they're really simple pieces of equipment once you take them apart, meaning you keep removing screws until you figure out how it works. And once you've done that, you're definitely able to understand how it works. And they are reasonably simple animals. So now that I've got those two screws removed, I ought to be able to slide this out. Yeah, I can. Okay. So this is a self-contained unit. There are a couple of springs back here that are necessary. But now we can understand better how this works. When the touchpad assembly is pushed in, that's what's going to affect the movement on the rods. So at that point, we're in real good shape. At this point, I should say, we're in real good shape. Yeah, okay. I'm just keeping my parts aside and organized. So now I can slide. I'll be able to slide this to the point where I can no longer slide it because of my dogging assembly, is the bottom line. But I can tell you that we're making great progress. Now here, as I continue to move the camera around on you, I apologize. We're going to remove these wheels. There are 4 nylon washers that you're going to want to be mindful of. Wheel, there's a nylon washer right behind it. And how do I know it? Because I have taken these apart in the past. There's a nylon washer. Then over here, I'm going to be able to pull, there's a nylon washer here. Here, it fell in, it's inside of the chassis. There's one on each side of the aluminum, is what I'm driving at. Okay, I've got 2 nylon washers. Then I can pull the pin out, being mindful that there are 2 more washers in here. I'm pulling this pin out. Yeah, that's spring-loaded. I should have mentioned that. Let's take a look. Okay, so now we're in good shape here. I've got my 4 washers aside. I'm good. And what I've done is I've separated my bars from the spring-loaded component that keeps the touch bar out. At this point, I should be able to I'm hoping I'm going to be able to slide this all the way out without too much interference. I'm still getting interference. What I don't want to have to do is to remove the other roller assembly from the other end of this, which I'm fearful that I might have to do. Let's take a look. Yeah, okay, I would say that you're not going to need to, in the sense that you can't slide that out any further because the dogging assembly is hitting our touch bar lifting arm. It's hitting this. So what I could do at this point is I should be able to put that down here. Oh, okay, no, I've made it too hard. Okay, we had it right all along. Okay, so you got the touch bar assembly. We've removed the wheels and axle from here. We're laying this flat. We're going to leave this laid flat. Now let's slide. Let's be mindful of the other, what I'm holding here in my hand. This is also under spring tension, so we're going to want to be careful of that. Continuing to slide, and voila, we've got it off. 4 screws, your dogging mechanism. I'm not going to go through the trouble of taking that off. It's quite obvious how that works. Okay. Alrighty. The next part of this video is going to be putting it back together. If you've not hit subscribe yet, we would very much appreciate if you did, and hopefully you're enjoying this video. Now, let's get back to it. Okay, so what we're left with before I put it all back together, this is what we look like in here. Okay. I guess the most important concept here is don't lose any parts, in the sense that you probably don't have these replacement wheels laying around. You probably don't have the axle laying around, so you don't want to lose any of these parts. So just be mindful of that. It is nice to be able to study the rest of what's happening here. There's obviously what the dogging assembly is locking against. That bracket, interestingly enough, does not seem to be available. So that's what the dogging device is connecting against. Yeah, I don't see anything else in here that's too terribly important to mention. Yeah. All right. I just dropped a washer, so I'm picking it up. Yeah. Appears to me there may only be 2 washers that are important. Just between these 2 pieces of aluminum here. In here and in here is where those nylon washers really need to be. That's what I would say. And it's these rollers here that ride within the extrusion. They ride right into this channel here and here. They fit perfectly in there so that they look like that. Sorry. They roll like that inside of there. So that when you push the touch bar down, the rollers will allow these spring-loaded brackets to move. And the touch bar is just moving straight down, but these rollers are actually traveling inside. So, hey, let's put this back together at this point. So the next thing, we've changed our dogging device. We put on a new one. Be mindful of how it goes on. You can clearly see it'll go on 2 ways. Take a note. This is the hinge side. The little locking bar is towards the hinge side, so be mindful of that. So we're going to slide this back in. We can just lay this flat. That can just be laid flat. That's good. Luckily, there's not too much to these things. So if you knock something out of place like I just did, it's not the end of the world. What is nice about this, though, is it has some rubber mutes on it, which are here. There's another one here. They're at all 4. They're at both ends and in the center, so that they mute the sound of the device operating. So what I just did on this end, as I was sliding it up, I was sure that my wheels were going to enter inside of the touch bar that I had demonstrated earlier. Going to continue to slide this back. Now at this point, we need to put this back together. We're going to slide this over. We're going to have an axle. Oh, sorry, a washer has to go first. Yep. Probably the most challenging thing is just simply getting the washer on, but put it onto the axle like I'm doing here. Push that through and in. Another washer needs to come. And your arm, great. Assuming that there are washers underneath your wheels, put those on. Washer and wheel. Now you can slide that. Now you've got a device that springs nice on you. So now, working in reverse order, we're going to put our head case assembly back on. And you are absolutely going to want to be mindful that you are keeping mental notes of where everything is installed. This is going to sit right in here, okay? Got to turn the device up so I can get to the screws behind. I've got it lined up here and here reasonably well. I've got my 2 screws. I'm going to put that back together. Nice. Nothing in door hardware needs to be excessively tight. Please be mindful of that. Okay, we've got that put back together. What are we missing? Something's not right. Oh yeah, that's right. Okay, we're good. Oh, I know what I was doing. I was trying to activate it when the device was on the ground. You can't do that, obviously. Yeah, we're in good shape. So now this operates really well. Okay. So now, continuing to work backwards, we're going to put the lock style end cap back on. That is probably smarter to do because it'll float a little bit, meaning you can still move this around the touch bar assembly. That cap will go on. Don't lose any screws. These are a Weha, my screwdriver set is a Weha set, a German set of screws. I think they're German. What I like about it is it has this rotating end so that when I'm tightening something, I'm not putting a callus or blister in my palm, which I've, you know, if you work in the field, you've done it countless times. It's just nice to keeping the known damage to the body to a minimum. Great. We're going to flip it around. And what's cool is the only part that I've got left on my desk is this end cap. This slides over this. Now that's what's going to keep us in place. No chance of losing anything at this point, in the sense of we're capturing the touch bar assembly on the device, on the chassis itself. Got that in there halfway. Bring the other screw. Voila, it works exactly. Oh, well, if we were really working, then your bracket, sorry, then your bracket, your end, forgive me. We are really not going good. This is going to have to go on first. I skipped that step. Forgive me. The latch case cover over here, pardon me, the filler plate's got to go over where my thumb is. I skipped that. This filler plate has to go in. The end bracket, the end cap, the end mounting bracket. These 2 brackets are in the bag, and it'll be quite obvious where they go because they'll be attached up here. Actually, if this was the real deal, you would have had to have removed these. So I missed that as well. So these 2 brackets will be mounted top and bottom. To get this off, you're going to have to remove those 2 brackets, those 2 screws, after you remove the head case cover. So, sorry for, I suppose, marginally botching that, but the point is you now know how to get to it, get to the dogging device. So, let's wrap up this video on camera. If you are enjoying this video, please click thumbs up or like, and also please consider subscribing to our channel. Let's move on to the rest of the video. And I suppose what might be considered the good part about all of this, you don't have to take the door down. The rods don't have to come out of the door. You can do it all while you're at the door. It would really be handy to have a second person with you, because you're going to have half of the device not securely connected to the door. You might want to use simply a clamp, a rubber padded, hand actuated clamp to be able to keep part of the exit device securely to the door while you're working on the other side of the door so it doesn't fall down on you. It's hard to hold an exit device up which weighs 8 pounds or more depending on the device, and you're trying to work a number 1 screwdriver. So no big deal, it's just going to take time. I couldn't fathom it taking more than 45 minutes in the field if I was doing it. That whole prior version was, in terms of time, I'd like to tell you, so bear with me. Length, yeah, it was 9 minutes, that prior version. It was 9 minutes, and yeah, I missed a couple of steps, but it shouldn't really be. I wouldn't think it's more than 45 minutes. As you know, what the biggest hassle is on working on hardware when it's installed in the field is there are people going in and out. These devices, they're used on some of the busiest doors that there are. McDonald's, okay, don't go there during lunch to replace a dogging device. You're going to want to pick your time, definitely. But at the end of the day, it was not very difficult to change this. Simple, straightforward material Kawneer does. I appreciate Kawneer very much so in the sense that we don't do aluminum storefront, but we do represent them in terms of replacement hardware. So by the time a client's calling us for a dogging mechanism, the device has been installed on the door, that's Kawneer, that's been installed for years. And what's something that I very much appreciate about Kawneer versus other manufacturers is, and I can't speak for many other manufacturers, but they're always very helpful when it comes to support. There are many things that you can't get support from Kawneer on, such as how to change the dogging device on a 1686. But whatever is within their power to provide you, they will absolutely do that. And they do that for us every single time. There's a bolt that I have, and we're not sure if it's a Kawneer branded touch bar. Can you send me the CAD drawing of the bolt? Yeah, if they have it, which they likely do, they're able to oblige those requests. So their technical support is what allows us to be successful, helping them indirectly support their installed product base and their installed client base. And it's appreciative coming from a hardware background that they engage in that. So the steps I missed was sliding this cover back on and removing these upper and lower brackets that will hold your head case assembly on. That will obviously have to come off. But the mantra of, when it comes to an exit device, keep removing screws until you figure it out. And that is basically how these things work. If you have any questions on anything Kawneer related or the 1686 dogging device, I'd like to give you the part number of the dogging device. I'd imagine Kawneer dogging. I think it's 116436. There are two. They have one for the panel line, which is not what we're doing. It's a 133636. So the replacement dogging device for this is 133636. 133636. Any questions on this or anything else, Kawneer, please feel free to reach out to us. And thank you. Thank you for watching, and if you've enjoyed this video, please click thumbs up, please subscribe, and maybe even send the video to someone that you know. Thank you.